In 2002, I remember walking into an EB Games with my mom and brother looking to pick out a game for the GameCube we received on Christmas. While browsing, I remember seeing Animal Crossing, a game that when I looked at the box art made me go, this is a game? We decided on getting Super Smash Bros. Melee instead. Part of me wondered though if we had made a mistake in not grabbing Animal Crossing at the time and felt I had judged it too quickly. Fast forward to 2020 and Nintendo EPD has released 5 main series and 3 spin-off games, with the latest being Animal Crossing New Horizons. After watching the Nintendo Directs in 2018 and 2019, I was filled with hype and excited to dive into the upcoming release. But then came Doom Eternal. While I did enjoy Doom Eternal, I couldn't shake off the feeling I had back when I missed out on Animal Crossing years back. My girlfriend mentioned how much fun it was to play when she received her copy and recommended it. I told myself, okay, after I beat Doom Eternal, then I'll grab Animal Crossing New Horizons. And so, I did exactly that. I didn't find it fair to upload this video without properly assessing all the features, mechanics, and interactions the game would have in store. Trying to rush review a video out on release day or release week even doesn't take into account the content later found in the game. After playing it to its fullest for about a month and experiencing the first 2 seasonal events, I feel now is the time to sit down and give a proper review on the game. Please note that the following review is based on my opinion and experience with the game. Not all will agree with said review, and that is totally okay. Animal Crossing New Horizons starts the player at an airport where they meet Timmy and Tommy at the check-in counter. The 2 trash pandas greet the player and aid them through the deserted island getaway package setup. This process consists of providing a name, birthday, style, character customization, hemisphere location, island layout, and a hypothetical question that, to be quite frank, has no impact on the beginning of the game. Once complete, the player will be directed to board the plane and watch a short video presentation on what is included in the package the player purchased. It is a great way to demonstrate all the possible outcomes the player may have with their island in terms of design, while also showcasing some of the early on mechanics the game contains. After watching the video presentation, the player then lands on the island they've chosen and meets up with Timmy, Tommy, 2 random strangers who bought the same package, and Tom Nook, who at first glance seems pretty innocent, but you soon realize that he is truly the mascot of capitalism. Tom instructs the player on choosing a place to set up their tent as their home somewhere around the island, and thus begins the first quest line. The game guides the player throughout the process and makes sure that they understand what their actions will result in depending on their choices they make. And this does not follow through just the first day, this follows through the entirety of the game. It is a great way to ensure players do not make decisions they are uncomfortable with, that are optional both early and later in the game, such as helping a local resident place their tent. Once finished plotting the player's territory and fulfilling a few other errands provided by Tom, everyone gathers around a campfire to discuss an important topic, naming the island. It is at this point I realized Tom scammed me and the other 2 strangers into building the deserted island getaway from the ground up rather than bring us to the island advertised. More of a reason I should have read the fine print when signing the paperwork. With escape sitting in the back of my mind, I proceed naming the island and follow along against my will. The group shout names they also find suiting for the island, and ultimately it comes down to a vote, with everyone voting the player's name. Shortly after, Tom appoints the player as the resident representative based on their hard work performed on the first day. That's right, I've been appointed the Lord of the Flies.
I guess you just won the election.
At this point, the game made it clear what the player's goal was: help develop a thriving new community entirely from scratch. Simple and straight to the point. After establishing dominance upon the other residents, I headed to my tent and proceeded to the next day. But not before KK Slider, a hippie musician with a guitar, gave us a life lesson on friends and relationships. It was an interesting decision to include this moment, as this advice can also reflect on those who you hold relationships with in person. The player wakes up, walks out of the tent, and speaks with Tom regarding the next step forward to island life, as well as providing a Nook phone. He mentions most of the features are removed but can be earned over time. He then provides the bill that is due for everything. But alas, the player has no bells, the currency used to pay.
I got my money, bitch.
Hey, don't call me bitch, I'm a grown man!
Bitch.
God, you're mean.
No worries, for the Trash Panda King has an ace up his sleeve. He presents the Nook Mileage program as an alternative means to pay the bill. Introducing the two main currencies in the game in this fashion is easily digestible and helps the player understand what is one of the required means of progression. The player can perform activities that can help not only rank up miles, but also help with gaining bells and other potential resources. Such activities include bug catching, fishing, mining, chopping wood and trees, dig up fossils and treasures, shoot balloons, plant seeds and saplings, water plants, interacting with neighbors, crafting DIY recipes, and buying, selling goods with Timmy and Tommy. These activities also provide a sense of natural progression, as the activities are not by any means complicated to fulfill, nor a time sink. For now, improvements to the island vary from immediate changes to requiring a full 48 hours for changes to take effect. Along with improving the island will come upgrades to enhance the player's experience, such as upgrading Nook's Cranny, increasing inventory size, and building infrastructures that will provide more efficient pathways. These activities can also be completed with up to 4 local players on the Nintendo Switch. The game also provides an option to explore the other islands in what Orville, a Dodo Airlines worker, calls the Mystery Island Tours. This allows the player to gather additional common resources as well as other resources that may not be easily obtained at the expense of a ticket. In addition, there's chances of meeting other explorers or stumbling upon rare islands. Being able to explore other areas allows more flexibility rather than being confined to the one island that I started on. Not only can the player explore mystery islands, but they can also visit other players' islands through Dodo Airlines. This allows the players to gather and not only trade resources with one another, but share experiences that can only happen through socializing. Eventually, after more improvements and upgrades to the island, the player is introduced to Isabel, a butter pup who will take over Tom's position for providing news to the island, so that way he can focus on bending over the player and ram as much debt as humanly possible with the construction services. She also handles resident services, island anthem and flag customization, and island evaluations. While I understand the game is notoriously known to have no end and is meant to be endless, I dubbed island evaluations as the final goal for this game, as a means of completion for those seeking a clear final path in a linear game. Island evaluations are reviews written by the residents, outside viewers, and Isabel, who judge the island on a 5-star system. The more work the player puts towards the island, the higher star rating they receive. When the player receives a 3-star ranking, they are given an opportunity to have KK Slider perform a concert at the island. This was all part of Tom's master plan to have KK Slider come perform a concert, as he mentions being a huge fan of the Bob Dylan of Animal Crossing. The following day, Isabel announces KK Slider's arrival. The game transitions from her to the residence service building outside where KK Slider sits with all the town residents and the player. He is reminded of a dream where he was in search of a cool place while out on his own, hoping to find others he could share his music with and enjoy each other's company. He then proceeds to play the game's title music, Welcome Horizons, where the official game's credits begin to roll. Finally, when the concert ends, the game shifts focus back to the player, who exits their house and is greeted by Tom. He provides a copy of the song that was played, as well as reveal his gamble on an idea paid off. He also grants access to the Island Designer app, which allows players to terraform by laying paths, dig out channels to flow rivers, and pile dirt to form cliffs. From there, the player is free to do as they please. However, there are remaining objectives that can be completed, such as finishing the museum, completing all Nook Mile challenges, paying off remaining loans, getting a 5-star ranking, and other endgame related content. There are also seasonal events that appear for players to participate in that vary in terms of content. The first 2 I was able to experience was the 12-day Bunny Day event and CJ's Spring Fishing Tourney. The Bunny Day event consisted of gathering eggs and DIY recipes to craft Bunny Day themed furniture and clothing, while CJ's Spring Fishing Tourney consisted of fishing for points that could be traded towards rewards while also earning trophies. It was interesting to see how the events varied in terms of content and kept me interested to see what else was in store for the future seasonal events. The game does a great job introducing new players to the series while also establishing the rules of the game throughout playing. The DIY recipes, for example, guide the player to understand what materials are needed to craft certain items, while also giving subtle hints on where to locate said materials. At the same time, the game does not impose on the player, allowing them to explore and try out different ideas, such as crossbreeding flowers. Visual imagery and sound design play a key role in this by making apparent what is and what is not possible to do. The tools crafted demonstrate this rule the greatest by showing specific animations accompanied with sound effects that show the player can, for example, hit a balloon with a net, or not dig into diagonal ledges. Having player guidance and rules established are essential when it comes to new players, but they also need to be sure they are being reinforced and supported by the game's mechanics and UI. Sadly, this is where the game struggles quite heavily in critical areas, more so on the UI side. Having to go through several dialogue prompts and menus can be rather taxing. A perfect example of this is when the Able sisters open shop and provide a wealth of options to purchase clothing. Instead of selecting all the clothes I wanted to purchase, I was forced into selecting pieces based on certain body parts. Process the transaction, and then go back in to select a different clothing for the same body parts. Attempting to select 2 different shirts, for example, would result in only being able to select one. While this may seem benign, this issue occurs through many dialogue interactions, especially when involving quantity. A similar instance being crafting. I could only craft one item at a time, causing numerous unnecessary prompts for the player to experience. My recommended approach would be to implement a keypad like the one used at the ATM in the ABD menu, or implement a spinner to determine the quantity of any given item. Then there are the settings for the game, which are practically non-existent. I was looking for a way to speed up the text since I'm usually quick at reading, but also want to be efficient and get through the dialogue so I can perform the action I desire at a faster pace. I was surprised to see that the only options available are to adjust save data and Nook Link, now forcing me to rely on holding the B button on my controller during dialogue to accelerate the text. After selecting one of the available options and deciding halfway through to cancel out of it, the game sent me back to the title screen, not providing an option to go back to the setting I was reviewing. For a game that is trying to convey relaxing gameplay, it's hard to follow along when fighting with one of the most important elements that provides information and allows player interaction, the UI. On the side of mechanics, I was surprised to see such a shift from decorating mode compared to the island designer. I felt as though there were 2 different groups of programmers and designers given the same task, and they just said, screw it, let's just use both. Do it. Rather than evaluate and modify certain functions from one another to make something possibly greater. While the tools for the island designer are great in precision, they lack in efficiency and mass usage. If I want to clear out an entire hill that is 3 levels high, I need to do it one by one manually. This could have been improved by utilizing features the decorating mode implements in the house, such as the select multiple items function, and combine them with the island designer's features, such as the cliff construction permit, to allow more efficient terraforming, an opportunity truly missed out on. One of my favorite things to review in any game is sound design and music. A lot of attention and care was put into making the music feel unique, along with making the sounds distinguishable. Watching an axe cut down the tree and watching it fall on its side as it crashes to the ground, the ocean breeze when standing by the shore as the music dampens in the background, the villagers communicating to the player and one another with their distinguishable language. One of my personal favorite things about this game was the way Nintendo EPD handled music that KK Slider composed. Having different music players like the portable radio and high-end stereo output different types of levels that would closely mimic the objects playing them, the level of detail that made the music stand out. It's why I started searching for the best music players in the game and set up a stereo-like room to get the most out of the tracks. Speaking of tracks, there are 98 total tracks the player can retrieve, each track varying to numerous genres from rock and roll, to hip-hop, to metal, to folk. One of my favorite tracks that I often listen to the most is KK Disco. What is even more great is that every Saturday evening, KK Slider will stop by to perform a song and give a copy of said song to the player. While the tracks are great, what I really enjoy above all is the acoustic versions being played. This makes KK Disco even more amazing to listen to for me. I do not have much to say regarding the customization in this game because it simply accomplishes what it does: allow the player to create and thrive in their work. Seeing all the pixel art brought me back memories of when I used to work on pixel art back in middle school and high school. Seeing it again sparked a fire in me wanting to do it again. Being given the option to also lay custom designs not only on canvases, but on clothing, furniture, and paths is even greater. On top of that, the option to share amongst other players really allows the community to interact and share designs that can help another player really bring out the best in their island, clothing, or furniture. As a creative individual, being given the option to design is always a plus in my book. A minor issue that could easily be resolved is expanding the number of available slots for more creative works. As a wise dog once said, "Rambling this crazy world is Squaresville without some pals." Fortunately, I was able to play with my girlfriend, siblings, and friends on both my island and their islands. We would often show each other our latest progress on our islands, the different clothing available at the Able Sisters shop, the different furniture and Nook's Cranny, and participate in numerous other activities we could do together. Being able to interact with others, while not mandatory in the game, creates moments of fun with other players and can objectively elevate the gameplay based on the difference of each player's goods and resources. An example of this is collecting fruit from other islands that cannot be grown on other players' islands. I was able to retrieve all 5 fruits from other players by simply purchasing their local fruit, so long as it was not my local fruit, that being a peach. This goes to show there is lots of potential to be had with the multiplayer in this game. Sadly, that is all that is good about the multiplayer. My frustrations with multiplayer started with the Dodo Airlines, where you're prompted with numerous dialogue prompts that are unnecessary. As mentioned earlier regarding the UI, because certain dialogue options will exit the conversation, force the player to restart the conversation and go through the dialogue prompts once more, it turns what should be around 15 seconds to set up and connect to Nintendo Switch Online to 40 seconds filled with pointless dialogue prompts. This is a design flaw that does not follow its own set of rules, keeping things simplified. My next frustration came after landing in my girlfriend's island. We started fishing together and she was able to catch a specific fish I did not have logged yet, and she already had caught and donated it. So, she wanted to give it to me so that I could have it logged in my Critterpedia and donate it to my museum. We then come to the realization that you cannot trade fish to each other. So, I then attempt catching a bug and seeing if that were possible. Nope. Bugs are a no-go as well. Not being able to trade amongst other players in terms of critters is a letdown. I can no longer live my dream of being a pet shop owner and sell critters to other players. Afterwards, we decided to head to her house and check out the new furniture she got. Some furniture I saw was nice looking, and so I had asked if I could see them at different angles. As she attempted to move the furniture or pick up, she was prompted not being able to while other players are visiting. I also tried placing furniture down and came across the same issue. There was also another prompt that appeared when I was back at my island and trying to invite others to visit while having the island designer running, insisting I needed to turn it off before anyone could visit. There seemed to be lots of limitations for online play, and so I did some research into it. The Best Friends app allows players to perform certain actions like fishing and using a shovel based on a set role. Of the 2 roles, the Best Friend role allows players to perform all available actions, while a friend role is not allowed to perform destructive actions. In this case, use their shovel and axe. I do appreciate the developers' intentions to minimize damage to players' islands through online play, but this role mechanic needs further tuning. Players that join the hosting player's island, regardless of role, can still buy limited items not yet purchased by the hosting player, steal bells and items that have fallen from trees, as well as items and resources sitting on the floor, steal bugs and fish the host needs. You get the point. I would recommend taking it further in both directions. On one side, allow more flexibility by letting players assist with moving furniture, help terraform areas, and other contributions they can provide to the host player. As for the opposite, place more restrictions, such as a visitor rule where they cannot have any impact on the host's island, guaranteeing safety to the host. The mechanics are already there. Tune it further instead of leaving it for messaging other players you are making spaghetti and meatballs or spamming your Instagram handle. One of the events I got to experience with my girlfriend was CJ's Spring Fishing Tourney, which rewarded players greatly when they played together versus playing the event alone. Her and I were able to gather numerous points at a faster rate compared to if we had done it by our lonesome. Our efforts were also rewarded not just by trading points in for exclusive items, but also receiving trophies based on the total amount of points we earned throughout the event. Seeing our prompts for collecting gold trophies made it more enjoyable and overall a worthy event to experience with others. I cannot say the same about Bunny Day. The constant littering of eggs in every nook and cranny was irritating. It got to the point where I would struggle to gather daily resources due to RNG bending me over insisting I needed eggs and Bunny Day recipes. It was so bad that a software patch, version 1.1.4, was pushed to adjust the appearance rate of some Bunny Day eggs. Not all eggs, some eggs that are not specifically listed. By the time the patch was pushed, I had already gathered enough eggs and all the event recipes required in a matter of 5 days. While this patch may have been helpful to those who are not as invested in the game, for those like myself who like to give their 110% focus, it was frustrating to now have to wait until the 12th, the last day of the event, in order to finish up the remaining portions of the event. I do hope that developers learn a lesson from this situation and work towards a more engaging event that rewards players for their efforts in a respectable manner like the fishing tourney. When I play video games, I usually have the mentality of completing the game to its fullest extent in an efficient manner, while still enjoying the game for what it is. Being new to the series, I was worried I would have trouble following along and making sure I was doing the right things given that the series is known to be laid back and relaxing. Given my personality of being analytical, fully devoted, and pushing the limits, I felt like I would treat this game unfairly, and so I wanted to make sure I went into this game with low expectations and stay on cruise control until I felt I was ready to advance and shift gears on my own terms. I'm happy to say that I really enjoyed playing Animal Crossing New Horizons. At first, it took some adjusting to the type of game it is, but once I got past that obstacle, it was smooth sailing. I was enjoying every bit of the game as I naturally progressed throughout the days and weeks without feeling lost. While my criticism may sound harsh in some areas covered prior, the reason for them being this way is because of the love I grew to have with the game. Being passionate towards things like your field of work, interests, hobbies, etc., often gravitate to questioning what potential flaws there are and how they can be improved. It's those flaws that, when resolved or improved, can help enhance and elevate the passion you have towards it. That being said, considering this game was developed by Nintendo EPD, the largest division within Nintendo that focuses both developing and producing video games, mobile apps, and other related entertainment software, and worked on blockbuster hits such as The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and Super Mario Maker 2, the lack of attention or effort to fix up some of the more critical issues mentioned certainly makes me question the developer. I mean, for a company that is highly skilled at pumping out quality first-party AAA titles, how is it that you mess up on some of the basic principles of game design on a beloved franchise? Part of me believes the switch from handheld to console may have played a role in development time, as the game was delayed from an unspecified 2019 release to March 20th, 2020 in order to avoid crunch. Technically, they have made an Animal Crossing game on the Wii U. However, Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival was a party game similar to the Mario Party series, which I doubt they could repurpose the assets and engine that was built for it at the time. Regardless, seeing that the developers have been active in pushing software patches and seasonal events makes me excited for what's to come and hopeful for future possible quality of life improvements to the base game. With the laid-back, relaxing gameplay and ability to connect with others, this game is something we all could use in these hard times during this COVID-19 pandemic. This game provided an outlet for those struggling with the events in the outside world to come together via social distancing and make the most out of it. I would be lying if I did not say part of this game's success and sales was thanks to this pandemic, or that there's such a strong fan base that it'd be purchased by fans regardless of how brilliant or terrible it may be. As someone who never played an Animal Crossing game, I see their success originating from the appealing focus of the game, to build a cool island pad, chill with friends, jam out to some tunes, and most importantly, relax. This game helped me de-stress during rough times, and I hope others can also benefit from this sort of game. I give this game my seal of play to play. No reason to try and rush through it, just have fun. Side note, there's still more that I'd like to talk more in depth about with Animal Crossing New Horizons, but I feel those subjects may be better explored in their own videos instead of inflating this one with information overload, so look forward to those in the future.